All right. That's the link. I've just shared the link with you, and you're free to share the link on your social platforms and invite anyone who wants to listen in this evening to Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe as she brings her presentation. I want to say a very pleasant good evening to one and all ambassadors, excellencies in the house, also dignitaries, specially invited guests, special mention, Ambassador Dr. Samuel, welcome this evening to the class of Steele. This evening, also want to we also want to welcome Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe, who will be responsible for this evening's session. And this evening's session is entitled Building a Social Enterprise. Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, dignitaries, please welcome Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe as she comes and she presents our class for us this evening on the subject, Building a Social Enterprise.
Well, good evening, Bishop Dr. Steele, to all the excellencies in the house, whomever is visiting us from wherever they may be in the globe, no matter what time, a day, or evening. This topic is a continuation of last Friday's class and something that is very near and dear to my heart, and something that I'm seeing becoming more and more a skill, a knowledge area that everyone, whether they are leading a corporation, a NGO, or a faith-based entity, that embracing this mindset around social entrepreneurship and social enterprise is becoming more and more critical as more and more NGOs are being created. There's more and more competition for resources, and those organizations that are best able to achieve their mission and their vision and the impact that they so choose to, that they have embraced some form of fashion of social entrepreneurship. And so this is to dig a little bit deeper into our discussion about social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. Last Friday, we really talked briefly about the concept and what the social enterprise, social entrepreneurship really mean, and why it's critical to have that mindset and infuse it into your business model. So I want to continue with that discussion today on this second day of July. So next slide, please. So, as I said, we've talked about this whole notion of social entrepreneurship. And while some are referring to it as a new business model, it has been the vision of some doers for quite some time. But because of funding resources, limitations, the growing needs of people that many nonprofits and faith-based organizations seek to serve, that more and more organizations are realizing that we really have to do something about our business model to make it more stable and make it sustainable. And as I was on another Zoom earlier today with this business tech group out of California, and we got into a conversation about social entrepreneurship. And he, like me, was sharing that with the nonprofits he works with, he tries to get them to clearly understand that, whether a church or an NGO, that is merely your tax status. in terms of when you're filing your taxes, but that's not your business model. And more organizations are starting to realize, that difference, and that they've got to look at other ways in terms to fund their programs and services, and to be able to sustain it, so that they don't have to have this stop and go way of doing business. And so, in its simplest terms, social entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, it is a combination of taking business principles and those that have a heart and a spirit for serving and want to impact the lives of the communities, or the overall well-being of a group, that they use this principle. More and more people are realizing, and if you don't hear anything else that I say this evening, is to recognize that everybody is an entrepreneur. And I mentioned this last week, and more you're finding that even in elementary schools, that they are teaching this mindset to this next generation, so that they understand no longer can you just hope that you'll get a job and you'll be able to stay there for 20 or 30 years. There's too much transformation going on in industry sectors, and everybody needs to understand what their transferable skills are and how they can apply them to a wide range of jobs and opportunities. And many times, as individuals, and even more so within organizations, people just think of their skills inside of this simple box, not realizing that those skills are not even thinking that those skills are applicable in a variety of ways that you can harness and make money. So when you think about why I'm saying that everybody is an entrepreneur, when you think about when folks typically hear the word entrepreneurship, they mostly often think of a for-profit business. They often think of, a startup. They often think of, somehow this has nothing to do with humanitarian kinds of work. And that couldn't be further from the truth, that those same principles, those same mindsets have very much to do with doing good. And so everybody is an entrepreneur in some form or fashion, because you are selling your skills, your time, and your knowledge if you just work a job. But you're also using that if you're harnessing it, if you're running any kind of program, if you have any aspirations to run a program, if you are doing anything that looks at what's happening in your community, in your ecosystem, and trying to come up with a solution, that's entrepreneurship in its simplest terms. And so everybody is an entrepreneur. And many of us choose to be entrepreneurial leaders. And so I charge everyone, when you reflect on your work, when you reflect on what you aim to do through your NGO, through your ministry, even through your work within a job that you're working, are you simply letting someone harness and use your skills and time, or are you maximizing that and linking that to your personal passions and those kinds of changes that you want to make in the community? Next slide, please. So when you think about, and I ask you, are you an entrepreneurial leader? And leadership in its simplest term, as my mentor, John Maxwell, teaches us all the time, that leadership is really about influencing, and it's about influencing people to their greatest self, the greatest maximization of their potential. That's what leadership is in its simplest term. It's influencing. It's influencing people to get behind you, a mission and a vision, and to give their best self, because they see where you want to take them. So when you're thinking about your leadership style and your leadership style as an entrepreneur, if you submit to my belief that everybody's an entrepreneur, I want to share with you 6 styles that every entrepreneur should know in terms of figuring out, how do I navigate the leadership pathway. So the first leadership style is laissez-faire. And this kind of leader, whether just in a business setting, working a job, or as an entrepreneur, this is someone who gives almost total freedom. You know, that person, their name appears on the org chart, but the staff, the team, they can really kind of do whatever they want to do. This leadership style may be of benefit in some highly creative environments, but when there is no clear direction, when there is no definition of boundaries, that this often can cause a team or organization to crash and burn, because there is no aligned vision as to where they're going. And depending on the mindset and the heart of the people on the team, they may be bringing their own personal agendas, their own personal aspirations, not thinking about the team or the organization. So laissez-faire is a style that you as a leader have to think about when it's appropriate, because all 6 of these leadership styles that you may embody in your work is leading a business, leading an organization. You have to know really what is called situational leadership, and that's based upon the personalities of people on the team who you're dealing with. You will identify which leadership style is best to use at any given time. Next slide, please. So the next one is autocratic, and most people know autocratic because it's been around a long time. Autocratic is when, you know, the leader wants to make every decision. The leader is really not open to any feedback from anybody on the team or in the social enterprise, that everything the leader makes every decision, which this, especially in 2021, does not work well, because people have more of a need to feel a connection with their work, and they want to feel that their gifting and their talent is appreciated. And this helps them to buy into the mission and the vision for the business. Now, being an autocratic leader comes into play when you perhaps have assembled your team has given all the feedback, you weigh the pros and cons, and then you decide what is the best approach, and then you make the decision, the final decision, after you have collected information from your team. Even in the cases when you use the autocratic style, the team members won't really be upset, because they will have felt that they have given their feedback. They had an opportunity to share, and many instances they will respect you because you have given them that opportunity. You have to really realize and know the personalities of folks on your team when you know it's best to be an autocratic leader. Okay, next slide, please. The next one is transactional. It is often said that this tends to be the style that men typically use. And this isn't Dr. Defoe saying this, but this is some extensive research that has been done about leadership styles and the differences between how women lead and how men lead. And a transactional leader is one that's pure and simple. And it's simply this mindset: I hired you to do a task. You are doing this task. I'm compensating you XYZ for the task. So I expect you to perform. Simple, plain and simple. Well, that doesn't always work anymore, but that is what transactional leaders feel. They don't feel like they shouldn't have to incentivize you. They shouldn't have to, try to inspire you. You're getting the pay. You're getting the pay and the compensation that you agreed upon, and they expect you to deliver. And that's kind of how transactional leaders work. Next slide, please. The democratic or the participative style of leadership is more and more common and is being used more and more, where people on the team are allowed to give feedback, they're allowed to give insight. The leader will collect that information, and then from that, the leader will make a decision, often making a decision with everybody on the team. And what it is found in those climates where team members want to feel involved, they want to feel respected, that this is a good leadership style to use, whether in a simple corporate setting or in a enterprise setting. This can really foster the creativity and also the commitment of people on, the team. What can become a challenge is when the leader feels compelled to make a decision and people on the team feel that they didn't get to give feedback or they didn't get to weigh in on the decision. Then the democratic leader is kind of looked at by team members as, oh, I can't say anything. The leader doesn't want to hear my mindset. And so there's here again, weighing when is appropriate to use this leadership style and when it does not work. Next slide, please. This pace setting is one when you really have performance issues and you really want the team to understand, and you want to lead by example because you're setting a standard. You're setting a standard of excellence, and you want people on the team to be aligned and to also function at that level. If you have a team that's motivated, highly motivated, and they are committed and they will work to that standard, pace setting can work well. But if you have team members that are a bit disengaged, pace setting can really be heavy lifting for a leader, because you're always finding yourself trying to encourage, trying to get people back on track, trying to get them to be focused on the organizational or the business goals. Next slide, please. Transformational leaders are ones who they are taking the best practices of management, but they are looking to really create sustainable change. They are looking to engage everybody on the team. They want people to be very productive. They expect people to manage, but they use a combination of strategies and tools to help people to really latch on to the vision, help them, to see where the destination that is in sight that you want to take the team. And this is when everybody on the team is really committed to changing something for the good, for transforming, making something better. That is when transformational leadership is at its best. And more leaders are using transformational approaches. Now, as I said, these are 6 that are critical. These are general leadership styles that are used widely in business settings, and certainly they are applicable when you're thinking about building your social enterprise, building that commitment to changing a community or changing individual people that you may be targeting. Next slide, please. So when you're asking yourself, do I have an entrepreneurial mindset? And how as an entrepreneur do I work? And so first, it's embracing your creativity. It's thinking about innovation. It's how can I take this idea, this concept, this business model that I have, and how can I use that to do great good? And so it starts with being able to manage yourself and thinking about how do I use my skills, my talents, this knowledge to create a viable enterprise? And then how do I take this and then really transform the economy or socially or the environment, whatever it is you want your focus to be through this enterprise that you're building, which is a combination, as I keep saying, it's a combination of your best business model with the best business principles that are out here. Next slide, please. So when you think about entrepreneurial leadership, there's really what is often called the three P's. It certainly starts with passion. You really have to find that idea, that project, that program, that community. What is it that you're passionate about changing? And often it says those things that bring us to tears, those things that hurt our heart, those wrongs that we feel just have to be righted. Those are the kinds of things that give us insights as to what we're passionate about and what we want to shift. And then from that passion, it does take persistence. It takes that persistence to continue to work on your idea, to grow it, to be resilient if you have setbacks and obstacles, and then know how to pace it. How do you pace the activities? How do you do your startup? How do you continue to launch? When do you think about scaling it up? Do you think about collaborative partners? These three P's are critical when you're thinking about your style, your way of being an entrepreneurial leader. Next slide, please. So in addition to the three, if you'll go back, it skipped the slide. If you think about the three P's, there's the two A's. And the two A's are alignment. How are you aligning your partners, everything that you need in your ecosystem, your people, your product, your partners, how are you aligning that? And then it's authenticity. There's nothing worse than being unauthentic if you are really in this entrepreneurial space. People can tell by the nature of your branding, the nature of your products, and they'll be able to tell by your heart and spirit. And as a social enterprise, being authentic is very, very critical because levels of support, the commitment that you may get from angel investors, all of that depends on how authentic you are seen in the marketplace. There's this expectation for social entrepreneurs that you will come and be quite authentic in your work. Next slide, please. So it's been said, when you look at millennials and also those in Gen Z, that this group has more of a commitment to supporting social entrepreneurs than ever before. That many of them buy products and services based upon the level of consciousness that they deem is expressed by that entity. And so more and more as this group is really expanding in their buying power, you have to really, when you're creating anything, is think about the impact that millennials are going to have. And ideally, if you're creating something, create something where it is intergenerational so that you do have millennials involved on your team. You will find that often millennials and Gen Z, they may have a better grasp of technology. They certainly may have a better grasp of social media and how to harness that to really engage people with your products and services. And so understanding this group, millennials and then also Gen Zs, that this group and their buying power can really take your social enterprise to the next level. Next slide, please. When you think about it, as well as millennials, people in general want to be independent. People in general want to feel that they are having a higher level of consciousness about their spending. And so people want to more and more to support projects and businesses and initiatives that they feel really contribute to the greater good. And so this is more and more why we're seeing this shift in the world even more, and why more and more the discussion around social entrepreneurship and social enterprise is becoming more and more apparent. And then those that are funding, whether supporting missions in the church or whether they are supporting NGOs, they want to see something that is sustainable. They want to see something that is truly impactful. And when an entity is just dependent on what donations they are able to raise or what grants they're able to write, it doesn't support sustainability. It doesn't really support the delivery of the kind of quality and services. And so us as leaders, as entrepreneur leaders, we have to really be thinking about our business model, what we need to infuse into it so that we can be sustainable and that we can offer the level and the impact of services that we want. Many times, as I shared last week, that the millennials and Gen Z say that when they want to contribute and be a part of the leadership team or be in organizations that they're involved with, that baby boomers or the leaders that are sitting in power will not really embrace them or give them opportunity. We right now in the world, for the first time in history, we have 4 to 5 generations that are in the workplace. In most organizations, it is unheard of. Typically, you know that at 65 or so, people will retire and go home and flick the remote and sit in their rocking chairs. But that doesn't happen anymore. People are living longer, they're working longer, and because of the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, and then the pandemic, people have found that their retirement and their savings have been depleted. So there's one group that works and they really commit to their dream making and continue to work their passion because that's in their heart and their spirit to do. And then there's others that are doing it because of necessity. I tend to see when I'm working with entrepreneur leaders, a lot of them have the mindset that John shared with us, and I'm referring to John Maxwell once again. John was asked the question, when was he going to retire? And he said he was going to retire when he went on to eternal life, because he said his work in leadership, and those of you that know John Maxwell, you know that he works in the faith community because he is a minister. First and foremost, he'll tell you that, but he also works in the corporate world. But he was saying what's different with him than others is that his work is a calling. This isn't just a job where he's trying to get the next promotion. His work is deep in his heart and a calling. And for most entrepreneurial leaders, that is how they see their projects or their programs, their ministry. It is a calling. And so more and more, you're going to have these 4 generations in your organization, in your enterprise. And so learning how to maximize the strengths of everybody that is on the team, and for the generations to learn how to work together and how to support each other and how to harness the brilliance that everybody brings to the team, that is becoming more and more important, because team effectiveness or team dysfunction can disrail an organization, an NGO, and a church. Next slide, please. So when you think about why entrepreneurship and why being an entrepreneur leader is so important, because when you are grasping onto your skills and to work that you're passionate about, it makes you happy. You feel motivated. Most days you don't even feel like you're working because you're doing something that's near and dear to your heart. It is passion. It is purpose. It helps you to really be fulfilled. And when you have a community, an ecosystem of others that share that same mindset, that they have the aspirations to be a change agent, a champion for the downtrodden, for the least of these, to transform their lives and their access to opportunity and hope, it makes this work really seem like you're not working at all. Next slide, please. So I mentioned last week, and when I was talking about your social enterprise and the double or the triple bottom line, that's what social entrepreneurship is about. You know, you're looking at how can I impact people? How can I get profits that I can infuse back into the enterprise? And what am I doing to transform the planet? Those are your triple bottom line benefits that your social enterprise really presents to the world. Next slide, please. So when you think about how do you create this combination and this triple bottom line kind of impact, you may do cross compensation. This is through affiliate programs. This may be showing and having, you know, the products or services of another entity, and you do revenue share. You might do fee for service on your team, in your ministry, or in your NGO. You may have a range of skills that you can sell in the marketplace. I was just talking to a colleague a few minutes ago, and we were talking about how every entity, whether it is a non-for-profit NGO, whether it is a church, or whether you're just an entrepreneur in business, you need accounting services. Everybody needs accounting services, and many times small businesses, entrepreneurs, and authors, they don't have it. If you had someone on your team that is an accountant, there's fee for service that you can charge. And sadly, what has really bubbled up here in the United States during this pandemic, with the PP loans and grants that the Small Business Administration, for example, wanted to give to small and medium-sized businesses. You could even get them if you were running a nonprofit or a church. They didn't have any financial records. Many of them didn't have accounting systems. Many of them, even though they were running formal businesses, they didn't have no tax forms, nothing. And so they could not qualify for this money that was being really distributed in a very lenient fashion because of the pandemic. So when you think about what kind of services, what skills the people on my team have that we could monetize, and then that becomes a way that you can charge fee for services, and that can support your mission or your NGO work. Next slide, please. You also may do employment and skill training. This is one that's near and dear to my heart. You could take a simple project, you could infuse skill training. There's often in your nation, in your communities, there's someone that is playing for skill training. You could create a model training program and offer that to programs that are doing it. I've worked with some of my clients who they might work in the building and construction trade, and they create a program, an apprenticeship program, and then they sell sell that program to another entity. And through the selling, that pays the wages of the trainees and the program makes money. There's all kinds of ways that you can craft programming that, as I said, that is often referred to as fourth sector kinds of programming that harness the government, public funds, foundations, and then you as a social enterprise. That's how you can use employment and skill training. You might serve as an intermediary, and those services may be that if a corporation is wanting to be closer knit with a certain entity, then your organization becomes the go-between. Intermediary services are very, very popular, and they are widely used. Market intermediaries are also used for branding, for social media. There's all kinds of ways that you can use these strategies to impact people, the planet, and profits. Next slide, please. You also may be a market connector. And this is you as the social enterprise that you may connect new businesses or new markets. You might use this globally. That maybe here in the U.S. That I often connect businesses with businesses in Africa, or sometimes sourcing things in India. You can be a market connector. That is growing in service needs as our global footprint and the need to have presence around the globe is expanding more and more. And then you may just provide some kind of independent support to a corporation, to a company. You are helping them to really expand their footprint and get greater impact. These are just some examples of how, if you think innovatively and you think about your product and your service, how you can connect again across markets. One of the things that could be as a market connector or independent support, many times you see small and medium enterprises who they want to bid on or do larger projects, but they don't have the infrastructures. And many times you can partner a small and medium enterprise with the larger enterprise. The larger enterprise serves to mentor the smaller business, and then over time, the small and medium enterprise now has the capabilities and the know-how to go sole source on some of those projects, and they are become more sufficient. These are all the kind of things, but it's really more and more as a social enterprise, as an entrepreneur leader, thinking far beyond the box, but thinking creatively and thinking innovatively as how can I create my own ecosystem? How can I harness the skills and talents within my NGO, within my church, so that we can harness and make profits that can allow us to further strengthen our business or our impact. Next slide, please. Many times you can create a cooperative. I had the opportunity to lead a delegation from Nigeria to Italy. A colleague of mine in Italy works a lot with cooperatives, and we went and visited cooperatives that I was hoping to replicate in Nigeria. And we went to a agricultural cooperative. We went to a chicken processing cooperative, and back to the agricultural one. They in their markets, they sold fruit and vegetables, but then they had a partner that was in the cooperative, and they took the fruits and the vegetables that were being grown by one aspect of the cooperative, and then they used them to make juices and to also to sell frozen vegetables. So there's all kinds of ways that you can collaborate to create profits. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about your social enterprise, you want to really make sure it's aligned to your mission and your vision, and that you don't allow yourself to do mission creep. I get a lot of mission creep calls. I call them on a daily basis, where someone may call me and they want me to help them to write a grant. But when I ask them about their mission and their vision, the work that they do has nothing really to do with what the funder wants to support. But many times organizations, because they see some money out there, they try to stretch their mission to align with the grant money. And then when they wonder why they're not successful in getting the grant, or if they for somehow mysteriously they're able to get the grant, but they're not able to achieve the results because it wasn't in their mission. So part of creating and building your social enterprise is thinking about whatever that social enterprise is going to be. Does it align with your mission and vision, or do you need to retool your mission and vision? How does those two things really link? And you have to think about the new opportunity that you're pursuing. How does that serve your mission? How does that enable you to really achieve the aspirations that you have as an organization? You want to think about how are you going to use innovation? How are you going to really harness what you're trying to do to achieve the results that you want to? And you want to think about, are we going to be able to be accountable? Are we going to really be true and authentic in the work that we're doing, in the company that we create? When you're thinking about building your enterprise, you're thinking about what is at the core of us as an organization. What do we seek to do? If health is your issue, then every enterprise that you would create, I would see it somehow linked to health. If it's education, if it's housing, whatever it is, there should be alignment. Now, of course, you may have some enterprises that will morph off that may not be as direct, but they are somehow related to your core work, your core mission. And so a lot of times as entities are trying to create and build their social enterprise, they really do some reflection on their mission to make sure that there is alignment. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about your social entrepreneurship aspirations, you really want to think about what it is you want to solve. What is it that you want to address through the social enterprise? And how are you going to use business principles to do that? And how are you really going to impact those 3 Ps, the people, get some profit, and help the planet? You have to think about how are we going to be able to launch this, and how we're going to be able to level up. What is going to be the social impact of this idea that we have? And are we going to be able to sustain it and really implement it in an ethical manner? Next slide, please. So this is just a tool when you're thinking about your mission, and people and organizations change their missions from time to time. As an entrepreneurial leader, you want to make sure that your mission aligns with the enterprise that you're looking to create. Many times what entrepreneurial leaders do is they may even create a separate entity that does their social entrepreneurship, their social enterprise work, and they align that mission with that. So many times you may see an entity, it may be the Do Good Incorporated, and then they create the Do Good Foundation globally, and that becomes their arm to do their social enterprise. And so you want to make sure too that you're structuring it so that you can feel that you're being authentic and you are operating in an ethical way. And while you have that mission, your mission can be, flexible, but you adopt it and you adapt it to make the needs, but you create that structure that is really going to support the sustainability of your social enterprise. But you got to have a mission. Without a mission, you are really just floundering. You got to be very clear, because your mission will help to drive the steps that you take, the choices that you make. You must have a clear-cut mission. Next slide, please. So this is just a tool that you can kind of ask yourself some questions to help you to really determine, do you need to do some tweaking of your mission? Should you refine it a bit? Has it changed? Many times organizations will create their mission when they created the organization and they never change it. Well, the focus changes over time. And so you have to revisit these questions from time to time to see if you need to modify your mission. Next slide, please. This is a way for you to really assess the opportunities. So once you decided, you know what your mission is, then you want to ask yourself, is what I'm envisioning, does this fit with what I want to do in the world to help people make money and to help the planet? So you have to ask yourself, is there a demand for this product or service? Is there anybody out here in the marketplace that needs this? And so you do some assessment of the market. And does this align with your mission? And then when you kind of put the ideas and you weigh it, you would determine if something it has a high, medium, or low connect with your mission, or if it's not very attractive, even though it may be, sound like a good idea, but it's not the idea for maybe you or your team or what you want to accomplish. Will it help your beneficiaries? These are the kinds of things when you're thinking about building your social enterprise. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about, is this a good idea? Is this social enterprise, is there a need for it? Did I assess and there's a gap, but people say they need this product or service. Did you assess that there's this gap in the marketplace? Who better can fill it than my social enterprise? You may already have, or maybe doing something similar to that. What innovation can you add to it? These are all the kinds of things when you're assessing the opportunity. In some of the other sessions I'll give you, there are some exercises that you can go through when you are trying to really define what your social enterprise is going to be. But you certainly want to make sure that there's a market for it, that you could sustain it, and that it has some social value, especially aligned to your mission and what you seek to accomplish as an entrepreneurial leader. Next slide, please. So when you're looking at it, just reiterating, you really want to see, is there a high-low value? Is this really going to help the target population or the community that I want to change or I want to impact? Is it going to be of any value to them? Is it going to help me change the behavior? Or is the product or services that somehow has any significant change? And so if you are working with individuals that need training so that they can get a livable wage job, that's of value. If you're providing services, healthcare services to those who don't have access, if you are providing food and helping people to understand how to access food, grow their own food, then you are helping the food insecure. So those are all social valuable activities that I know that social enterprises do all the time. Next slide, please. So you also want to know who you might be able to partner with. who could help you, who would be a good partner so that it would be win-win on both sides, that you could work together and then you can impact from a social perspective. You want to know if your product or service is going to have that positive perception by those that need it and those that are in your ecosystem, in your country, in your community, so that they on some level may give you the support that you need. If you are answering, when you're thinking about your social enterprise, and you could answer yes to any of these, and you can figure out who your partners, then the social value potential is quite high. Next slide, please. When you're thinking about the market potential, is there a need for your product? Is the opportunity there? Do they need it? Will they might desire it? Is there any kind of funding support, or will people purchase it? What market share can you get? And when you're looking at that need and you see that, the product or service I want to create is not there, but I hear people all the time saying they need that. They need access to it. That tells you there's potential there. If you know that folks you can partner with, these are all of the things when you're considering as you are shaping out and creating and looking to build your social enterprise. You want to know that there's a market, because you don't want to create an enterprise and nobody wants to buy your product or your service. You want to make sure that you have kind of scanned the environment and you know that there's a need or an interest for that product or service. Next slide, please. Sustainability is a big thing, because sustainability is critical in one of the reasons why you want to create a social enterprise to begin with, because you're looking to build the capacity of your church, of the NGO, or your business. You're looking to make sure so that you don't have to start and stop, as is the case with the nonprofit. And as I said, sadly, so many churches have closed because people just couldn't pay tithes and offerings because they were unemployed or underemployed, or they had been furloughed for a time. And so it's all about sustainability. You want to make sure that you have researched your idea, that you can try to make sure that the startup costs are not that exorbitant. And what most social entrepreneurs do is try to align what they're going to create with services that they perhaps already offer, partners that they already have, or partners they can barter with, so that while they're building up their resources, that it doesn't cost them so much money to get it up and off the ground. And then the organizational capability. Many times, especially in the nonprofit sector, organizations are so keen on providing services to people that they don't really spend enough time to get their infrastructure in place. So then as they start to really scale up or grow, they find that they don't have processes and systems in place. And process management is the key to any kind of effective operation, whether in an NGO, a corporation, or a church. If you don't have sustainable and documented processes, you're going to find yourself rebuilding and retooling over and over and over, because you have no consistency. So you want to make sure that whatever idea you're coming with, as you're building your social enterprise, that you are putting those pieces in that are going to support the sustainability. In the same conversation, someone said to me that he said, I say this to my clients, and he said, and I tell them I am a praying man, but I also tell them that in that prayer that they must recognize that prayer is not a strategy that can be used solely by itself. And I said, well, I often tell people that hope is not a strategy. And we, just sharing that, of course, we're all filled with hope and we all are prayerful. But then the meaning of that is you cannot cannot just rely on that alone without doing research, without planning, without activating it, not resolving issues, not having processes. You have to take action. If you think back to Matthew 25 and the parable of the talents, you can't take your social enterprise idea and put it in the soil and think that it's going to sprout. You have to take some action and you have to maximize it. And yes, prayer and hope will help it to flourish, but you have to unveil and unleash that idea, that talent. You can't bury it in the sand and just say, okay, well, one day it's going to sprout without you putting any action. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about the sustainability, you're also thinking, how about what's the possible income that can be made from this idea? How is this going to support our work? And this is looking and crunching the numbers. Yes, for social enterprises, you have to crunch your numbers and you have to see how, in terms of costing out what it's going to cost to produce this, and then what profit. I'll never forget, I was doing a social entrepreneurship training in Belize and was doing a workshop with a group of women entrepreneurs, and they proudly were sharing with me that in their business that they were making tamales, and they were saying, oh, we sell out every time, we're doing fantastic. So I said, oh, okay. So what is your profit margin? Nobody knows. How much does it cost to make the tamales? Nobody really knows. So then I said, well, let's just do this exercise and let's just see. So they, as a team, they started to calculate what the supplies it took, the cost of them to make the tamales, how many they made, what they were selling them for. And then they realized, although they were selling out and they was saying, oh, we're doing so great, when they looked at the profit margin, they weren't making any money. So you want to really assess the income potential as to what is the cost of the product or the service, what are you going to charge it, and what is your margins of profit? And then, as I said, the organizational capability. Do you have everything in place to expand or to deliver the services? Do you have the foundational things? If you don't have someone crunching the numbers, if you don't have, the space, even if you're using your home space, but how do you have all of the key things that you need to run the enterprise? And then do you have enough to build it so that you can keep it going for 3 to 5 years? Because that's typically kind of the time when something really continues to grow, or where most businesses, whether a social enterprise or a for-profit business, just without social enterprise principles, folds. So you want to make sure that you are putting those pieces in place in your model so that you're able to sustain it. Next slide, please.
That's our final slide. That is our final slide, Your Excellency.
Okay.
We've come to an end.
Okay. You see, I was on a social enterprise pathway. And I think I do remember I stopped there and I'll continue. But I just want to, in closing, embracing social entrepreneurship into your ministry model, into your NGO model, even as in your business, is critical. And when you see those entities that are thriving, they have infused social entrepreneurial principles into their business model. It can support sustainability. It can help you to really maximize the income potential. And then it will provide the resources, additional resources, so that you can grow your ministry, you can grow your NGO, and that, yes, you may get donations. Yes, you may get grants, but then you also, in the absence of those, you're able to sustain your program and achieve the impact that you want. thank you so much for allowing me to share with the class of Steele. I'm open to any questions if anyone has any questions for me. If not, peace and blessings. And thank you once again for the opportunity.
Well, come on, let's give her the class of Steele. Thank you, because that's how we do it. So everybody knows that we're here and we are live. Your Excellency, Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe, absolute, a brilliant presentation. And I've been following closely, and I think when we sit under these types of teachings and we look at what we are working towards, and we recognize, wow, there is a blueprint for success. There is a model to follow that will create an environment of understanding that you're going in the right direction or you're going in the wrong direction. I think also one of the key things that a number of business people need to be aware of is there's a difference between social entrepreneurship and entrepreneuring, because a social entrepreneur focuses on the social aspect of what he does, the services, and a normal entrepreneur just deals with return on investment, profit, and coming in. And one question I have to ask Your Excellency, Dr. Defoe, is how have you found the balance between those who are social entrepreneurs and those who are just entrepreneurs, businessmen for return on investment? How have you found the balance between the two going forward?
What I have found, Your Excellency, is more and more entrepreneurs who have just been focused on um, bottom line profit and making profit for shareholders and paying out dividends. Then more and more, because of changing consumer expectations and needs, then more of them are creating and doing the corporate responsibility kind of programs. So even in those sectors where they are just entrepreneurs, they are harnessing some of these principles and using them in the corporate settings. If you look, I can go down a list of entities that I have written grants for clients. Some of them you may be familiar with. Amazon has a program. They provide funding, and they allow nonprofits, for example, to list their company. And so anytime someone goes on Amazon and they buy something, a percentage of that goes to that entity. I've written Best Buy. If you're Best Buy has a foundation, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. I can go down the list of corporate organizations who have put these kinds of principles, even if they are, purely entrepreneurial, they're using that. But I'm also finding that more and more, as I was saying, millennials and Gen Zs, and as they're creating businesses, they're leaning more to the social enterprise, social entrepreneurship mindset. And it really goes by, and this is why I infuse that about vision and how the leader sees himself. Because as I've shared in many audiences, and I don't know if I did with you and in the class, if you look at Goodwill Industries, which is kind of well known most places, that the visionary behind Goodwill Industries, that individual, when it was created some 100 years ago, put social enterprise into that business model. And if anybody has ever heard of Goodwill, Goodwill has the Goodwill stores. They do employment and training, but they also get a set aside in the United States budget. So they have money that's earmarked for their programs. So you're seeing more and more that, and this is where the fourth sector is coming in. And if you Google that, fourth sector is very big there in the UK, where you're seeing this merging of government and corporations. And so I'm seeing more of a leaning to social entrepreneurship than just those that are, that are pure entrepreneurs that are not thinking about the community, because more and more the communities are demanding that if your corporation is in that community, that you give back, that you are doing something to support the community. And so you'll see more and more, if you would Google and go on almost any Fortune 500 or 1,000 corporation, they have some kind of civic department that is doing social enterprise kind of work in that setting. And so I think you're going to start to see even more of that.
I think one of the other things that we can observe as well is with the more focused introduction and awareness of the 2030 agenda, with also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the Millennium Development Goals. You're recognizing that corporations are really having to step up the game and acknowledge their corporate social responsibilities. For example, in the industries, a lot of the industries in Africa, let's take a look at Africa. A lot of the industries pertaining to mining, forestry, other resources, natural resource procurement, they're now having to seriously consider their corporate responsibility, their social responsibility, and look at redefining the sustainable nature of their businesses, and how they are also identified and recognized within corporate society. So I think it is going in a good direction. And Dr. Defoe, this teaching on sustainability and the potential highs versus the lows are very critical as well, because you also have to identify your target audience. Who are you targeting in what you are doing and why you are doing it? All of these dynamics are really playing some key roles. Well, let me hand over and inquire the Golden Eagle. Let's see, His Excellency Samuel, also, you have any comment on this evening's class for us?
Could I, before someone, could I share one last thing, kind of an addition to your comment? When you talked about ROI for pure entrepreneurs, what is being expected and about the sustainability and about testing the market, what is being requested more and more of nonprofits and certainly for social enterprises is that they do something called SROI. And this is the social return on investment. And I'm finding that a lot of NGOs have not heard about it. They don't know how to calculate it. So I spend a lot of time also teaching leaders how you go about calculating SROI. And so just as the expectations are growing for entrepreneurs and corporations, and there's community and civic responsibility, also for the social entrepreneur is the expectation that you somehow are documenting your bottom line so that you can calculate and show the impact of your mentoring program or your training program, and show the cost savings that are resulting from that. And that's becoming more and more a nuance and necessary for NGOs to understand this exists, this is an expectation, and how to calculate it. Because I'm finding that a lot of them hadn't thought in that terms, and certainly have not had any training in terms of calculating that. And so a lot of what I do is teaching that too, because that is becoming an expectation. And I just wanted to share that with all that are gathered and listening, because you did bring up ROI, and folks need to learn about SROI as well.
Well, before before His Excellency Samuel also comes on, I want to clearly state one of the secrets of the success of the journey of the class of Steele is because of that SROI. Because the class of Steele, we are structured in an environment where we identify our social responsibility with regards to making sure that we give back. Even this presentation, a lot of organizations, anytime they have an event, they're looking for fees, they're looking for costs, they're looking for payment. But a lot of individuals are not in an environment where they're looking and saying, how can we give back to society? For example, a lot of public speakers and lecturers, they don't do anything to give back. You can't have them on a platform if you're not going to pay them. And one of their corporate social responsibilities for those individuals in the corporate world, because they're in the corporate world, should be, what are you giving back? Is there a remnant that you're teaching and you're not expecting anything from them? What are you giving back to society? Are you mentoring individuals and giving them good content, good material for value, good support structures? So all of these dynamics are very, very critical and key for not just those in a mega corporation and the Fortune 500s to be aware of, but even those in the churches and in the local communities who are also reaping the benefits of the societies that they are living in. So with that being said, let's go to His Excellency Samuel also to share your point this evening or your thoughts.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Excellency, our mentor, our able mentor, Dr. Marcus Steele. It's good to be in the class this night. In Nigeria this night. I want to also appreciate, thank God for our mentor, Dr. Defoe. We are grateful for availing yourself to bless us tonight. Thank you. The Lord will increase you more and more. Honestly, the teaching is just timely. As I said it again, it's just timely. You know, in Africa, we are to some extent victim of what you are just teaching. We have a lot of grants coming to Africa. We have a lot of grants coming to Africa in the form of help, support, intervention, and so on and so forth. And some of us in Africa, we to some extent, we have gone to a point of stretching our vision, just like you say, and our mission statement, because we felt a grant is coming due to the state of, the state of our mind, the poverty nature of Africa. When I mean poverty, I mean financial poverty. We are rich in terms of mineral and natural endowment. And our people are impoverished because our leadership has impoverished us. And then I think it's just timely. I feel like the class should be to be aired to the entire Africans. Our leaders have impoverished us, and some of us have stretched our vision, stretched our missions to meet up a particular grant. And then when we get it, we somehow by ourselves we sabotage the aim and objective of the grant. And maybe, for instance, if the grant is for health, and then you have an NGO for maybe education, you stretch it, you just add the motive, the motto or the mission, health and education. You add education to it, and after getting the grant, accessing the grant, you instead of you to invest it in health, you are investing it in education. And then even if you want to invest it in health, you discover that you are not doing it well because you are not passionate about it. And then at the end of the day, our foreign counterpart will say, these are corrupt set of people. These people are mismanaging our money. These people are misappropriating our money. And then our people on here in Nigeria, we said, in Africa, we said, so person have collected this grant to help us, but he couldn't help us. I think this is just timely. We need to reorientate the African community. We need to inculcate this kind of teaching into our minds, because we are really missing it. We have a lot of NGOs in Africa who have, those NGOs that have access to grants, like grant in terms of health, grant in terms of free education for the less privileged. Red Club Society, all these clubs, they donate a lot of money, American visa and things like that. So we have a lot of grants coming to Africa, but we are mismanaging it. So I thank you for reorientating some of us. I think when God wants to make cause a change to happen, he raised one man. I think some of us avail ourselves today in the class of Steele to make sure we cause that change, that needed change. So, and I believe, God, that the entire Africans will listen to this teaching. And I know that some of them are on the platform hearing, either through the means, either through Facebook or to another social media. I want to appreciate you, Dr. Nisa, Dr. Anita. You are doing a good job. And then you are changing our lives and you are changing our perspective. And I tell you that when we get grant this time, we will make sure we use it according to our passion. So when you don't have passion, that you don't have need for the grant, because the passion attracts the grant. Thank you so much for what you have just shared. My question is like this, just a question. If, for instance, you said you talked about sustainability. I just want to know the difference between, does that has to do with Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations, SDGs? And if it has to do with Sustainable Development Goal, when I get grants, and then should I take it that way, or I should just do it as I feel like doing it? Is that a standard as per when I mean standard, is that a standard to maybe making use of whatever I have, other goods or services or whatever I have? Is there any standard for it? I think if there is a standard, please, maybe we may want to know the standard if you wish. Thank you. When I mean we is because I'm talking on behalf of Africans. Thank you so much.
Yes, in response to your question, the sustainability that I was teaching about in this context was the sustainability of your organization and the enterprise. While the sustainable goals is a solid framework that, in terms of alignment with your mission and your vision and the projects that you want to do, I suggested everybody that the UN Sustainable 17 are a part of, because they're all quality of life issues. But sustainability in what I was referring to is whatever social enterprise that you start, that you've done the research and that you know that there's a need in the market, that there are people that are interested in that service or that product, so that you don't have to start and stop your enterprise. That you like a grant is running for 12 months, and then when the grant is over, the program stops. But you don't want to do that. And as most entrepreneurs, they want their business to grow and scale it up. So you're thinking about sustainability from the prospect of your NGO. You get that grant resources, that ideally that grant resources helps you to build upon and expand a program that you already had, and that you created an NGO, and your social enterprise through the NGO is a product or a service that people are going to need forever. Say if you were selling water, people are going to need water every day. Maybe you selling alkaline water. So that is a sustainable business. So that's what this refers to. You want to create an enterprise that it has longevity, that there's there's stability in it. And that's what that in that context is relating to. What can you create that it can live on after we're all gone, that it can be such a value to the community that business lasts forever and ever? Because I mean, using Goodwill, for example, the gentleman who created Goodwill Industries, and if many of you, if you don't know of Goodwill Industries, look them up. You'll see that it was created 100 years ago. It's still there. Well, I know the person who is the visionary behind it, is resting in internal peace. But the way he structured it and the way that he had the employment and training and the businesses is still flourishing. Goodwill is across the U.S., somewhere globally. They do training. They have stores where people donate used items, and they have these stores where people go in, and those in need, they can buy things. So it's that when you're thinking about what kind of business your entity might create, what is it a business that can can last through the test of time? That's what the sustainability. And you're so, so right. That Africa is so near and dear to my heart, and Africa brings tears to my eyes so many times because of all of the talent, all of the resources, and just not maximizing them, and infusing in the next generation. It always troubles me when I come and there's so many young people standing on the corners, idle, standing in the village without work to do, they've lost their aspirations and their hopes. And then there's those that have gone to university but trying to access opportunity. And I think that in many instances, my people in Mother Africa have forgotten that they were the original teachers, the original entrepreneurs, that they have forgotten, the heritage, and forgot from whence they come. And sometimes I feel like everybody needs to go and stand in one of the slave dungeons. And when you go and stand there, and you can still feel the pain and the suffering, that then you would honor the ancestors, and you would use your talents and your skills, and you would not believe that I cannot help my brother or sister, and I cannot be successful too, because so much in our village around the diaspora, we don't work together. We don't help each other. And I always say there's more than enough oxygen in the room for everybody to have some. So I don't have to snuff you out. I don't have to mistreat you. I don't have to, act as though there's not enough. There's more resources. The only thing that stops anybody is our failure to act. And so I hope that as you continue to be a transformational leader across Nigeria, that you will help, and that will elevate. Because I was not going to say this, but I feel compelled to share this. One of the most painful things in that delegation that I mentioned, that we took a group of leaders to Africa to look at cooperatives and to look at things that I had envisioned to be able to replicate in the village that claims me. When we there, the leaders, they started to try to make side deals for themselves. And they forgot about the village. They forgot about the people, and even forgot about our host. And what was so embarrassing, our host contacted my colleague there and said, these people are contacting me, but they talking about how could they use it for their own business? How could that? And so we as a people, and I'm not picking on Nigeria, I'm just saying this is a mindset, whether a leader is ethical or not. If you focus on the greater good, everybody benefits. There's nothing wrong. Everybody needs to make as much money as they possibly can. But they also need to choose to use their gift of life to be service to other people. That's why we're given the gift of life. And so I'm going to stop, because you see, I get very passionate about that, because we're here to help our brothers and sisters. And we have to change this, this mindset, because the powers that be that don't want us to harness our potential, they realize these are the behaviors that we have. And it's almost like, throwing a bone in the middle and hoping that the dogs will fight over it. They sit back and do this and knowing that we will self-destruct, or that we will hurt each other. And we have got to stop that. We have got to work to help each other and use our talents. So I'll just stop there. I didn't mean to go a bit on about your sustainability, but we have got to shift our mindset.
You know, Dr. Defoe, I celebrate your passion because I'm like-minded with your passion. And to be quite honest, I think my diplomatic nature caused me to be able to sit down and not interrupt you a long while ago, because I just wanted to jump in there and tag, you know. One of the things that I will share with you, Dr. Defoe, that I'm developing a teaching on, and it's a very interesting teaching, and it is based actually on my own perspective. And here it is. We live in a bubble. All of us live in a bubble of of our awareness, our understanding, our expectation. All of us live in a bubble. And if we do not burst that bubble, when we go into another environment or community, we are just going to exist with the knowledge that we had. And when we come out, we're not going to be any different. And what do I mean by that? I traveled as a Christian a lot of my earlier years. I traveled as a Christian in a Christian bubble. I've been to so many countries around the world, but the truth is, most of those I've been as a Christian, and I was just in the church. So I went to church services, church events, and with Christians. And I discovered something. When you stay in a bubble, you're not any more intelligent than if you had just stayed home. You don't gain anything else. And the reason for that is that when you go among people that do the same thing, say the same thing, talk the same way, it's like a Christian going in a Christian community with a Christian mindset and a Christian understanding. And we shy away from everything that is not Christian, not what we would say is something we want to get involved with. And then guess what? When we come back to our place of habitat, we realize I don't really know anything about that culture. I don't really know anything about those people outside of the Christian people in that environment. And when I started traveling as a businessman, there was a whole different perspective. But you have to be in an environment where you are prepared to burst the bubble and release yourself to the new ideas, the new understanding, the new dynamics, the new culture. What is sustainability? Sustainability now has two meanings. There's 17 sustainable development goals. There's 17 of them. But sustainability now is also exactly as you just discussed, Dr. Defoe, your own organization and its longevity on the earth. But a lot of individuals that are entrepreneurs, they're looking at the ROI sustainability, and they have done it and mastered it. But a lot of them are now struggling to figure out, how do I do that SROI? Because they have not put themselves in a place where they're really focused on the communities that they're operating in. And I want to hammer on that point. I really do, because I have individuals who are looking for funding and who are looking for investment, and they're now having to look at, how can I engage funding and investment from the United Nations, from other international organizations that have philanthropic funds that are available for social development. And they don't know how to engage those funding because their business model, it does not match up. And Dr. Defoe, I think you and I are going to need to do some teaching and training on that model that is conducive to the sustainable platform. I think we need to do some training on that model, on the social interactive platforms.
I think so, definitely.
Okay, so Your Excellency, Donald Ewers, Minister Ewers, I see you there nodding your head and smiling all the time. Do you have a contribution to make to this evening's class, Your Excellency?
A pleasant good evening, Your Excellency, all those in the house, and the Honorable Lady, Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe. It is well said, well put together, and the model that you choose, I've been involved with a lot of marketing network. And in marketing network, they use this kind of model. And, you're talking about the three P's, about to be passionate and pacing and persistent. And with everything we're doing, we have to be passionate. I mean, the class of Steele, we have passion. I mean, Dr. Steele, we could go on and on all day, the next day, with the class of Steele and talking about the vision and what we want to do and so forth. So whatever we're doing, if it's in your marriage, you have to have passion. If it's with your children, if it's with everything you do in life, if it's school, if you're studying, if you're at university, whatever you're doing, not just the entrepreneurship of everything, but everything we do in life, there has to be passion and persistent. And if we don't have those kind of attributes in life, we won't go anywhere. We're not going to reach anywhere. And also, one of the things I've liked what you're doing, Dr. Defoe, is leaving a legacy behind. And we need to leave legacy behind for the next generation and for them to be persistent. And especially in the UK, I don't know, in Africa and other parts of the world, the Black young men are underachievers in the UK. And we in the UK, that's another area I really like to touch, is to help the young Black men in the UK to have that passion and that persistence and that determination. If they go for a job and they don't get it, keep trying until the door gets open, but never give up. And so whatever we are doing in life, we have to have that persistence and that. And so I'm really thankful tonight for you to broaden our horizon in what you're teaching and the consistency, the entrepreneurship of life, that it's not just something you can snap your finger. All that knowledge that you've gained, it was not an overnight thing. You talk about John Maxwell and the training and this, what you've been through, and all the books. I've seen your resume, and your resume must be something like 7 pages. All the things that the training and this that you got. So you're a lady who set example. You set example for others, and really, as I said, I salute you for all the knowledge and information that you're adding on to us and giving us value in life. Thank you very much, Mom, and well done. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, all yours. We call on Her Excellency Bishop Dr. Comfort out of Ghana. Dr. Comfort, would you lend your voice to the discussion? I think you more than anyone should be able to add strength because of those decision makers among you. So please, Your Excellency Bishop Dr. Comfort, I do.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Your Excellency, Dr. Michael Steele, and all the excellencies in the house, and also Ambassador Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe, the First Lady. I see that you have a very good staff for the class of Steele. And if this continues, I believe every member will be able to have something in our hands. In fact, I was so stunned when you were talking about the transformational leadership. In actual fact, I joined a group called the Global Center for Transformational Leadership, and when we go around, that is what we do. We train people, and then we also align them to have their group or wherever they are or whatever they are doing, for all hands to be on board and for them to understand each other and for them to share their responsibilities and for them to move ahead and make a markment, because we know that the world is a stage, and when one comes into the world, the person has to do something, or what we call play his or her part, and it must be played well, so that when you leave the stage, the next generation can count or can talk about you or can say that, yes, this person did a lot for us. And the Bible rightly said that David served his generation. And after that, he went to sleep with the fathers. So for you to be able to serve your generation well, you must be a very good leader. And as a matter of fact, a transformational leader who always see that the people he or she works with or move about with move from one level to another level. And that is what our mentor, Your Excellency, Bishop Dr. Michael Steele is doing, moving the class of Steele ahead. Everybody, when you come in, the little knowledge that you have, he adds some to it and then champions your cause for you, so that at the end of the day, you can also call yourself as a person. I'm glad to be in this class today, though I've been very, very tired and worn out, trying to reach people to bring them for the next class. And I'm very grateful. Thanks a lot. Good evening. Greetings from Ghana.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency. And I want to also say, for those who have your cameras on, that you show up on the video. Thank you for that. But there are many who are not able to have on their camera when they come on. And actually, Her Excellency, Doreen Burunji, you mentioned that the electricity is off. Some persons, there's no electricity in their region. And then some persons prefer not to be seen. But we want to thank you so very much for being in the class. Your Excellency, Doreen, would you lend your voice this evening to the discussion if you're able just to unmute? We know that you're without camera this evening.
Hello.
We're hearing you, man.
Good evening, Your Excellency, our mentor, Dr. Michael Steele, all the excellencies in the house, invited guests. Tonight I'm in blackout. I'm sorry that I came into class late because I slept off. I have been extremely very tired. So I have been listening in, but half asleep. That's what I can confess. Maybe I cannot comment right now in this class tonight. Maybe I'll comment next week. Sorry, thank you.
All right, Your Excellency. Adiola, do you want to lend your voice to the discussion this evening, Adiola? Your Excellency, Adiola from Nigeria.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's evening. I really appreciate, the Excellency, Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe, for our discussion today. Honestly, what she discussed today and what she discussed last week, got me thinking. And I think there are so many things I still need to learn, in order for me to really be whom God wants me to be. Not only in my spiritual aspect alone, but in other aspects, because God is expecting excellent spirit in me. And if there are so many things that I don't understand, there's no way I'll be able to fit in outside there and glorify Him. So I'm still learning, and I think I still want to learn more. It's something that I would like to listen to this particular, discussion, to sit down on my own, look at it, and check things I need to learn, check things that, I still need to, the knowledge I need to acquire, for me to be the best that God wants me to be. And I really want to appreciate the house. I want to appreciate Dr. Michael Steele for what he has been teaching us. Since I've been attending the class, I've learned, I've acquired knowledge. I've learned things, and I'm praying that every day God will help me to be able to put them into practice. Because if you're learning and you're not putting them into practice, then it doesn't make sense at all. So I really want to appreciate you guys, and thank you very much, sir, for tonight and for everything. I appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Adil. Well, with that, we're gonna close this evening, but I want to close with this thought. A lot of us are looking at what can we do to make a difference. There is so much. There's so much to do to make a difference. You have something, knowledge, tools, resources. Look at what is in your storeroom, your storehouse, your reservoir of life. What do you have that you can add value? And look at how can I use those skills? In your community, there's so many people that need mentors, need friends, need persons that will point them in the right direction. Our youth in these times, our youth are becoming very wayward. As a matter of fact, I've heard of so many suicides recently, and I don't want us to behave in thinking in the dynamic of doom and gloom. It's not doom and gloom. It is a time for us to take seriously our corporate social responsibility, because a lot of times why individuals are finding themselves in these positions because mega corporations at sometimes they're so focused on the ROI, they're not interested any longer in the family. They're no longer interested in making sure that that mother gets home and that mother could look after her children, or that father can get home and that family can have some time to socialize. There are things that you as a corporation can do to fulfill your corporate social responsibility. Look at your company structure. Look at those in your circles and see how can you give back. They always say charity begins at home. I believe that if you run a company and you don't have a corporate social responsibility policy in place, you can look at your staff. How could you start first with the social contributions that you will make to your staff? Look at their families, their loved ones. How can you make a difference? All of these are things that we as a people going into the 2030 agenda have to focus on realistically. Companies have to look at what opportunities do you give to the citizens and the community, those in the communities. In the class of Steele, we're here to mentor and to teach Her Excellency Dr. Defoe, our team Leaders Without Borders, and all of our partners and associates are accomplished, but they're also in a position where they're giving back, making sure that they fulfill their corporate social responsibility. I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele. I want to appreciate Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe for her tireless efforts in her corporate responsibility. Dr. Defoe, thank you so very much for being with us this evening and for sharing. And I know I thank you like you're not one of us, and you belong to us and we belong to you. But I want you to know that we, the class of Steele, appreciate what you're doing, your sacrifice, and your contribution to humanity. We sincerely appreciate you. I look forward to celebrating great wins with you and your teams as we continue to leave a legacy for those to follow. I want to thank the Golden Eagle, Samuel, His Excellency Samuel, also for being with us this evening in class. It's always a those who are not here this evening, that were all a part of our founding team, Her Excellency Victoria O'K-Dyer, His Excellency Barrister Anthony Uwasia, and all of our partners that were there in the founding part with us. We thank you for getting us to this stage, and we look forward to going forward in the next level. I want to acknowledge His Excellency Dr. Philip Finn and the Word of Life Ministries International, all of those individuals who have caused us to get where we are and where we are going. Thank you so very much for being in this class this evening. I'm Dr. Michael Steele, and on behalf of my wife, Jeannie Steele, and myself, we appreciate you. Good night, and God bless you.